Hey guys, so a lot of people use pirated software for stuff like Microsoft Office, Adobe Photoshop, Illustrator, video editing, music editing, 3D modeling, and the list goes on. But a lot of these people are also getting aware of the fact that piracy isn't right and want to stop, but either they don't know how to or can't afford it. So in this video, I'm going to give you some really good alternative options, many of them being free. And by the way, two of them blow my mind for being free. They're so good. And we're going to find out and figure out for you guys how you can avoid piracy and still get the job done with some really good softwares. So let's go check it out. Okay, so the first software I'm going to start with is probably the most widely used one in the world, and that is Microsoft Office, which includes Word, Excel, PowerPoint, etc. Now, to be honest, Microsoft 360 isn't really that expensive if you think about it in its subscription model. If you buy the Microsoft 360 subscription, it's actually for about $70 a year, which makes around $5.50 a month, which is really reasonable because not only do you get all of Microsoft Office, you also get 1 TB of space in OneDrive. But that's not all. If you get the Microsoft Family Package, which lets you share this with up to 6 people, and all of them get Microsoft Office and 1 TB of OneDrive each, it'll cost you only about a little over $8 a month. And if you divide that between the 6 family members, it's only about $1.30. So you can get all of Microsoft Office with 1 TB of OneDrive storage if you do the family version for just over $1, which is really reasonable. Having said that, let's say you still don't want to do that. You want an alternative, you want something completely free. No problem. Number one, if you're on a Mac by any chance, you already have a really good version or an alternative for Microsoft Office for free, and that is Pages, Numbers, and Keynote. Now these are made by Apple and they come pre-installed or at least downloadable into your MacBook. So also your phone has that too if you have an Apple iPhone. And you can use that for free, and they're pretty good. Apple doesn't make substandard stuff. They may not be as good as Microsoft Office, but it won't be too bad or too far off either. I haven't used it much, although I do have a Mac because I subscribe to Microsoft 360. So that's one free alternative. Let's say you don't have a Mac. Don't worry, there's still some really good options. LibreOffice. This is a really good free open source version of Microsoft Office. Basically, it has Word, Excel, PowerPoint type of stuff, and they're really good. People really like them, and they're absolutely free. So go to the Libre, by the way, the description will have all these links. Go to the LibreOffice's website and you can download it from there. And let's say you still don't want LibreOffice or you can't access that for some reason. There's also WS Office as well, which is also free. Albeit they have a premium version as well, which costs like $30, and I just rather get Microsoft Office instead of that, but that's also an option. Also, there's a website called Piracy. If you just want to make presentations, you just need Microsoft PowerPoint. Piracy is really good. It makes nice animated presentations, and there's also a premium version of that as well. Plus, this is not it. This is not an exhaustive list. There's many more. All you have to do is just Google it, and you'll have a plethora of options. Now, let's move to Adobe Photoshop. Probably the most pirated software in the world, just my guess. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna say is that Adobe Photoshop actually offers a photographer plan, which I actually have subscribed myself. It's for $10 a month, and you can get Photoshop and Lightroom in that, and also Adobe Bridge and a couple of small other stuff. So that's kind of reasonable, and I've actually enjoyed it for a couple of years now. But having said that, if you can't afford that, or your country doesn't have access to Adobe for some reason, which is quite common by the way, there are some really good alternatives which are much cheaper and even free. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Affinity Photo. This is probably the best alternative for Photoshop. You can pretty much do everything you can do in Photoshop in this. The UI, the user interface, also looks very similar, and it's a very powerful, good, reliable software. This costs $50 one-time purchase. You see, in Adobe, it's a subscription model. You have to pay every month or every year. In this, you don't. And in Adobe, if you had paid for this subscription for 5 months, which is $50, you would have paid the same amount you would for a one-time purchase for Affinity Photo. And I have Affinity Photo as well. It's great. I don't use it too much because I have Photoshop, but having said that again, Affinity Photo is really good and you really can do pretty much everything on it, just in a slightly different way. Okay, you don't want to pay that $50 even, or you don't have access to Affinity Photo or a credit card or whatever, don't worry. there's a software called GIMP. I know it's a funny name, but GIMP is actually also a really powerful photo editing software, and it's open source. It's absolutely free. And in that software, you can also do pretty much everything you can do in Photoshop, just in a slightly different way. Its UI isn't as friendly. I personally think so because I had GIMP too, just to check it out. But people who have no other option, if they experiment with it for a few days or a few weeks, you'll get good at it and you can pretty much do a lot in GIMP. So that is a great alternative for Photoshop. Moving on from GIMP, if you still want another option, Photopea is really good. People really like it. It's online and it's a great, powerful photo editor, and it has a lot of options as well. And another honorary mention is Canva, because a lot of people use Canva, and the online version is free. There's also a premium or paid version when you want to download more or larger file sizes or whatever. So you can make good icons, good logos and stuff on that. They have really good templates. It's more geared for beginners from what I understand, but that's a good alternative too. Also, this is not final, this list. There's so many other versions, so many other softwares that pop up. Just Google it and you'll find more. But the ones I told you are really good and you'll be happy and safe if you stick to these. Guys, if you like this video so far, definitely hit a like and subscribe. And also join my Facebook group where you can interact with me. The link is in the description. Now, let's move to Adobe Illustrator. Now, if you don't want to pay for Adobe Illustrator, again, just like Affinity Photo, there's Affinity Designer by the same company. It's also really good, really powerful, and it's also on the iPad, by the way. I forgot to mention that Affinity Photo is also on the iPad, and it's cheaper on that. If it's for $50, over there it'll be for less than half on the iPad. So Affinity Designer, which basically is an alternative for Adobe Illustrator, it's also on the iPad. You can use your Apple Pencil 2 with it if you have an iPad 4 or a Pro, and also it's a really good alternative. You can do a lot. Some people even claim it's better than Adobe Illustrator. I'm not an illustrator myself. I don't use it much, although I have it. I have bought Affinity Designer, but I don't use it enough to tell you that it is better. But some people do say that, meaning it's very powerful and you can't go wrong with Affinity Designer. Moving on, there's Inkscape. Another alternative, another really good alternative for Adobe Illustrator, and people really like Inkscape. And if you don't want Inkscape either, there's Gravit. Gravit is also considered a really good software. It's a good alternative and you can check that out. Moving beyond this, you can just Google and find out more softwares, more alternatives. But again, the ones I mentioned are pretty much one of the best alternatives, and I've told you some free ones too in this. Now let's talk about video editing softwares. And this is something I can talk quite a bit about because I have been kind of video editing or dabbling in it since 2007, no, since 2005. So I know a bit about it. I started with Adobe Premiere about 17 years ago, and currently I'm on FCP, Final Cut Pro, and I love it. I bought it once for $300. Adobe Premiere, you have to pay every month, and I don't like Adobe Premiere. I think it's a little slower compared to the rest, and there's some issues that I have personally with it. Anyways, if I was to start again in video editing right now, and even if I had to pay for a software, I would get the software I'm about to tell you, which is for free. Except for there's a studio version of it for $300. If you want to buy that, it's more slightly powerful and it renders faster maybe. But DaVinci Resolve, it is the software that blows my mind, that it's for free. The free version of DaVinci Resolve is actually quite complete right now. It's DaVinci Resolve 17 point something. They're probably going to release 18 whenever, in a few months or a year, whatever. So DaVinci Resolve is an awesome video editor. Hollywood movies are color graded on DaVinci Resolve. Every movie you see is pretty much, every commercial you see is pretty much color graded on DaVinci Resolve. It's for free, it's amazing. There's such an amazing company, DaVinci, and I think you cannot go wrong with the software. You can do anything you can do in Premiere, FCP, in DaVinci Resolve. It's a full professional software. So if you want to do video editing, learn video editing, or want to take it professionally even, I would say learn DaVinci Resolve and you are sorted. Get it right now, download it. Next, motion graphics. If you are using a pirated version of After Effects or you want it, you can't afford it, don't worry. DaVinci Resolve, again, this is why it blows my mind. It includes a software called Fusion, which used to be expensive 10-15 years ago. I even tried it. It's node-based, but it's basically a really good motion graphics software, and you can do so much in it. You can do pretty much all you can do in After Effects. Although After Effects is amazing, I personally really like After Effects as a software. But if you don't want to spend money, you have Fusion, and learn it well, you can do wonders in it. Again, DaVinci Resolve gets 2 thumbs up and more. Now for audio editing. Adobe Audition rocks. It's really good. I have to give it that. If you can't afford it, don't worry. There's Audacity, which has a really crappy user interface. It looks really old and stuff, but it's actually quite a powerful software, and it's free. It's absolutely free, and you can edit audio so well in it. And if you want to go beyond that, if you have a Mac, GarageBand, it's already installed in it. Logic Pro, its bigger brother, costs money. I have both Logic Pro and GarageBand, and I have Audacity. And I would say that GarageBand is great as well, but if you don't have that, you can use Audacity and pretty much get away with a lot. Also, DaVinci Resolve, again, it has Fairlight built in, which is an audio editing software for basically film and video. So you can also use that. If you want to create music, if you want to do music production and you can't afford Logic, Fruity Loops, or Ableton, then you get Reaper. Reaper is free basically, although they do ask for $60 at some point, I think so. At least a few years ago they did, I think a year or two ago. And that's a full-fledged music production software, and you can do wonders with that as well. It's very powerful and very light. So Reaper gets 2 thumbs up for that as well. And anyways, there's more softwares. You can just Google that. You find out for audio. Moving on to 3D animation and creation, the best software is Blender, and I absolutely am in love with the software. I have that as well. You don't have to buy 3ds Max or Maya or Cinema 4D. Just learn Blender. And I tell this to people, students, old people, young people, married people, that if you want a side business and you want to do it from home, work from home, online, learn 3D modeling, rigging, animation, rendering, and do it on Blender, because Blender is free. You could earn a lot of good money. It's a great career advice I just gave you. And anyways, if you want to learn 3D modeling or 3D animation, just download Blender. It's open source, free, and there's so many tutorials for it online on YouTube. So Blender is amazing. Go for it. Moving further, if you want to get Windows but can't afford it and you want to keep it licensed, just get Linux or Linux. I don't know how you pronounce it, but there's so many versions of it and many are free. So you can just download that for whatever laptop you have. It's actually really light and it doesn't take up too much space. And there's a lot of softwares that run on Linux. So Linux is a great alternative to Windows. And if you have a Mac, you're sorted anyways when it comes to Windows, which is why I love Macs. As for music, you can use Spotify, Deezer, there's so many, Apple Music, whatever you can afford. Personally, I use Spotify. It's really cheap where I am and it's great. For movies, go for Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, whatever you can get. You don't need to download movies. There's so much content available online now. So plus YouTube, if you don't want to spend anything at all, there's YouTube. Just watch whatever's on that. This is not a moral lesson. I'm not judging you. You can do whatever you want. This video is only for people who actively or consciously are aware that they want to stop using pirated software. I made this video because I used to use pirated stuff about 5-6 years ago, 7-8 years ago, and I stopped. And now I try to buy whatever I can, or at least get whatever I can officially, whether it's free or not. So it's just a good thing to do. It's good karma. I wish you the best. I wish you luck. I hope I helped you. I hope this video was useful. I hope I didn't offend anybody. Again, I'm telling you, I don't judge you for using whatever. I'm also not perfect. So please hit a like, subscribe if you liked it. And until next time, take care. Bye.